Wicked Little Letters has been out for a few days now, and I remember seeing the trailer for this in the cinema about a month ago, and it caught my eye for a number of different reasons. Before going into this film, I didn't know that it was actually based on a true story, and the fact that it is makes this even more compelling and entertaining. Starring Olivia Coleman as Edith Swan, a woman in post-war Britain in the 1920s that was receiving abusive letters in the mail in the quiet town of Littlehampton, and also Jessie Buckley as Rose Gooding, who's been suspected of being the letter writer. We witnessed what nightmare neighbours would have been like 100 years ago. Even though this is a comedy, there is a deeper story and hidden meaning underpinning what we saw. So I thought I'd delve into the film, give my thoughts on it, and explain the ending with who was behind the letters and why they did it. So let's get into it. Here is a review of Wicked Little Letters and the ending explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Why did Edith write the letters? So it was during the middle of the film that we found out that Edith was actually the person who was behind the letters that were not only being sent to herself, but were being sent to many different addresses across the small seaside town of Littlehampton. It was cottoned onto by the police officer Gladys Moss when Edith signed the witness document confirming that it was her mother, Victoria Swan, that was dead on the table. Edith signed her G's in the exact same way that the letters in question were signed. Plus, we also went on to see that the ice cream stand sign had a G in the exact same way too, tying back to what Edith said to Rose when she mentioned how she was doing the signs in the town from when she was 8 years old. With Gladys devising a plan where she was able to put invisible ink on a stamp that was given to Edith when she planned on posting a letter in between the end of the trial and the jury's verdict, Edith was caught, and she eventually admitted to writing and sending the letters to herself. But the burning question was why? Why did she do it? Even Edith didn't really have a reason, but I think there was a clear reason as to why she was doing it. I think she was angry and resented her father. We first saw her writing a letter during the process of being punished by her father and belittled by him. He said how she was always going to be his little Edith and made her go upstairs and write a verse from the Bible 200 times. This was where she wrote the very letter that eventually went on to kill her mother when it was posted. She was writing the letter with the same anger and rage that she had whilst writing the passage from the Bible, showing that she was almost writing those words and channeling that anger. And even though the letters were addressed to herself and others in the town, the core of that anger stemmed from her wanting to direct it towards her father. Something that she never did. Well, only right at the end of the film when she told him how she truly felt. In the final quarter of the film, we saw her confront her father, and we found out that he was the reason why Sydney, her former fiancé, left her. Throughout the entirety of the film, we were led to believe that Edith sent him away, but in actual fact, it was Edward, her father, who did, because he almost didn't want her growing up and living on her own. He wanted to hold on to her. Plus, it was also Edward who first notified the police that it was Rose who could have been behind the letters, because he didn't like the influence that she was having on his daughter. As we saw, they were once very good friends. So that pent-up anger, resentment, and rage towards her father for controlling her life and not allowing her to be the independent person that she wanted to be was what led Edith to writing those letters. Even if she didn't realize it herself, that's what I feel the reason was. With Edith being carted away right at the end of the film after cursing towards her father and telling him that she was the one who wrote the letters, the movie then faded to black with her laughing whilst being taken to prison. The irony in all of this was that it took her being arrested and being put behind bars to finally feel free in her life. Free from the prison which was the town of Littlehampton and the four walls in which her father ruled. The larger meaning of the movie. Whilst Edith's struggles to be free was confined within the four walls of her father's home, that was essentially the micro version of what was going on a macro scale throughout the entirety of the country. This was women not being equal and then being viewed and treated differently in society. The likes of Gladys Moss's story was something that matched that. She was undermined as a police officer and was told that she was a women's police officer, which didn't really stand for much in the eyes of the men that worked there. She was even suspended for making developments in the case which proved Rose Gooding's innocence. And even once she'd cracked the case, the men were the ones standing there taking the credit. We also saw Edward's view on the suffragette movement and his disliking towards women being seen as equal, and we even saw Mabel mention how she hated the fact that women had to go back to being decent now that the men were back from the war. The women kept the country going whilst the men were away, but now they were back, they were being told that they had to be how they were before. Another main way that this was seen as well was with Rose's story. We saw how her daughter Nancy came from outside of wedlock in Ireland, but Rose lied and said that her husband was killed in the Great War. This was so that she'd be accepted by society when she arrived in Littlehampton. Again, showing the views at the time where women almost had to follow strict rules when compared to the men. So all corners of this story, from the four walls of Edith and Edward's home to the wider scale of how women acted and were treated in society, it was all connected to that. My review of the film. I actually really enjoyed this film. I know I'm probably not the target demographic, a guy in his 20s, and the cinema that I was in probably had an average age of around maybe the late 60s, but I don't think that actually matters. The core of the film was there, the message was there, and the performances were really good. The quaint small town of Littlehampton felt like a place where everybody knew your business, and you could see why these wicked little letters would cause disruption amongst the people that resided there. For the first half of the film, you're essentially sitting there wondering who's behind the letters, and then for the remainder of it, you're on the edge of your seat wondering what everybody's reaction is going to be when it does get revealed. The serious subject matter of the film and its commentary on a time in history that was so different for one half of the population was showcased through a comedic lens. But that didn't prevent the weight of the message and the meaning of the story from landing with the impact that it wanted to. I thought Olivia Coleman and Jessie Buckley had such good chemistry when on screen together. You bought the friendship that they once had, and you almost saw the jealousy that Edith had towards Rose with just how free she was, and the fact that she didn't let the restrictions in society hold her back. She didn't care what the town thought of her, and you got the sense that Edith kinda just wanted to throw caution to the wind too. Ben Davis was the cinematographer on this film, who's also done films like The Banshees of Inisherin and loads of other Marvel films too. But I'd most compare this style of cinematography to the likes of 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, in which she was the cinematographer, and also Before I Go to Sleep. It was just gorgeous on the eye, and some of the shots from a stylistic perspective had so much fluidity running between them. For example, the shot where we just glided between the two houses, and another where Rose was in the stand and she was found not guilty and the camera was just moving back slowly, which was accompanied by a slow motion shot too. It was just really nice on the eye, and he was the perfect choice for this film. I also want to give massive compliments to Anjana Vasan, who played PC Gladys Moss. I've not seen her in much, only briefly in Fresh Meat from like 10 years ago, and most recently in Black Mirror, and I was really impressed with her in that. The quality that I saw in Black Mirror continued in this film, and I'm actually looking forward to seeing what she's going to be doing next. I definitely recommend this film because it's just a good time. It's filled with funny moments, great acting, and a story that's actually true, something which is the most hilarious thing about all of it. So, there you have it, Wicked Little Letters review and ending explained. If you want to see more videos such as 2024 movies broken down, then there's a playlist in the top corner right now, and it's also over on the channel. I cover most big releases, so be sure to come back for more. And finally, if you'd like to see what I gave this movie on Letterboxd, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. You might already know based on my review, but you never know, it might surprise you. Let me know what you thought of the film in the comments below. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.